Distributech 2023, one of the sponsors of these interviews, and these are interviews with thought leaders from around North America and the globe. Our sponsors are H2 Scan. H2 Scan is the leading sensor manufacturer for hydrogen sensing in a lot of different applications, in transformers, in battery room safety, in processes in safety, in industrial, and in the future hydrogen economy. So I want to thank our sponsors, and I want to thank all of our guests, and I hope you enjoy this interview. Our next guest is Odus Boogie, because he's been Boogie since birth, Wittenburg, and he is the CEO of Arcos. Boogie, it's so good to have you here.
Morning.
Thank you.
Good to see you.
So I want to talk about your career arc and how you got into the industry, how long you've been in it, and just anything that would interest people about your career.
That's a great question. I'm not sure much would interest people about my career, but
you got to be CEO. You had to
give to give you a quick story.
Okay.
I've been CEO at Arcos for about 1 year. Prior to that, I spent 20 plus years in enterprise software, in mission critical infrastructure, in highly regulated industries like digital banking, for example. So I was president of a company that served most of the large and mid-sized banks in the United States. That's relevant because I'm looking to bring some of those technologies to the utility sector. I did spend a little bit of time in utilities many years ago, in the early 2000s, working for TXU when Texas was going through their deregulated movement. And so I got my first taste there, went off and did a couple of other things, and now I'm back in the industry.
And banking is so cybersecurity focused. I mean, you have to be, right? Or else I show up and there's no money in my account.
That's a real problem.
That is a problem.
Absolutely.
But that's what we're dealing with now in the utility industry: cybersecurity, integration of software, all the different tools and technologies. So, Arcos, tell me a little bit about your role at Arcos. Why you've joined a year ago? What are you trying to do at the company? Where are you going? And how is it impacting the utility industry?
Yeah, so Arcos, great company, been around since 1997. Historically, has served in the call out and crew management aspects of the utility. So we talked earlier about labor shortage in terms of linemen. So more and more utilities are leveraging contractors to do both blue sky and dark sky work. And so Arcos' initial tool set was around calling out linemen to go get work done, normally in an emergency situation. And so time is critical, safety is important, and managing that was very difficult. And so basically, Arcos automated a number of manual processes and started the process of digitalizing the relationship between the utility and their workers, whether it be blue sky or dark sky or contractors or their native folks. If you fast forward to today, we really have a platform that's about mobile workforce management and crew management, again, both for blue sky and dark sky. But it really is around, and you hear these terms a lot, I heard them this morning in the keynote, it's around leveraging real-time data for situational awareness to drive safety, to drive efficiency, to keep the power on. I mean, we all take it for granted. We work in an industry and everyone here is sort of on the same page, trying to provide reliable power really for the world. Most folks that aren't in the industry do take it for granted. I've been one of those folks historically too. And so there's a lot of importance to the work that we're doing, and that kind of ties to why I joined the company. The mission of Arcos is about empowering humanity by ensuring access to critical infrastructure, and that's a big mission, and it's something that I think my whole company's proud of, I'm excited about, and we're looking forward to building upon.
Like, you don't pick an easy one,
Yeah,
hey, get our stock value up. You pick one that says, empowering humanity. I love it. Excellent. Because IEEE, who I'm a member of, and a lot of us who've worked in IEEE, we've been dealing with the similar kind of a thing. How do we get people involved? Well, get them involved in something that makes a difference. And it sounds like Arcos makes a difference. I want to switch gears. I want to talk about storms on the horizon for the utility industry. Not specifically for what your company provides, but in general. You've seen the industry. You've had a taste of ERCOT, the Texas, and you've had a taste of disasters. I mean, the freeze, the great freeze, and they just had another one.
Had another one last week, yes, sir.
But you mentioned safety, that's our passion. Reliability, our passion. I was the president of the Electric Power Reliability Alliance, and I wish I'd made it the Electric Power Reliability and Safety Alliance.
Okay. Yep.
Then I wish I'd made it the Electric Power Reliability, Resilience, and Safety Alliance. Resiliency. That means getting the power back on when we have a disaster, some event that we didn't expect, right? Arcos has got to be involved in that. But as an industry as a whole, what have you seen for reliability and resilience?
I mean, there's a lot going on, as you mentioned. I mean, I live in Austin, Texas, and I'm coming off last week's ice storm, so I've been literally right in the middle of it.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you, not having power, and many people are without power still, is debilitating. I mean, it's debilitating for the economy, it's debilitating for individuals, it's very tough. And so, I guess I have a little bit of a recency bias since I just experienced that. I'm one of the fortunate ones. After the last freeze, I installed a backup generator. And so while I wasn't able to live my normal life, it was semi-normal, which I was blessed to be able to do that. But, crazy weather patterns is only really one thing happening in the space. I mean, there's unpredictable weather. I think historically, the utilities used to have a storm season, and it might have been 6 months out of the year. Right. Going forward, it feels like storm season is any time. Think about the floods in California, the ice storm in Texas, the Northeast polar vortex. It's just never ending. In addition to that, there is a lot of infrastructure spending going on around grid hardening. There's cybersecurity, which we talked about a moment ago, that is front and center and of utmost importance in managing today. So the industry has so many priorities that are important, because if they're not all done well, then we won't keep the power on, and we'll let people down. And so it's I think there's a lot of things going on that are tough challenges, but I suspect we'll rise to the occasion.
I love, it seems like we've got multiple priorities, and they're based on, if you have a weather event, that's the priority. Sure. If you have a cybersecurity attack, that's the priority. If you have some nut with a rifle shooting your substation, that's a priority. So I think there has to be more flexibility in the utility industry. You mentioned grid hardening. I've heard that term used, and I've had different definitions of it. Define grid hardening.
Well, I think it runs the gamut. It could run from replacing a wooden pole with a concrete or a steel pole. It could include IoT type devices out in the grid that are sending data back to the home office to make better decisions. It involves, I think, a bunch of different aspects, but it involves software like Arcos to help that process, to help the construction process, to help the damage assessment process, to help create field situational awareness. There's a lot of different aspects, both in the software side and also on the hardware side. Many of those folks are exhibiting here today. It will never be perfect, because the electrical grid, as you know, is aging and is in constant need of repair and updating, which is an opportunity in that the work never ends, so to speak. But that's how I think about grid hardening, is actually making it more resilient and getting predictive. I mean, there's a big data element. I think you'll hear a lot about data this week, real-time data analytics. I mentioned financial services earlier. They've been using data analytics forever. I don't know if you remember the early days of the credit card sort of wars, but they knew more about consumer spending than the individual consumer did. And they did that because they were leveraging, data and analytics and machine learning in the early days. And so there's a lot of things that we can take from other industries and applying to utilities. Data management, getting predictive, is a huge opportunity, because today, I hear from executives from large utilities that they have 100 outages per day in a single state. Yeah. And many of those could be prevented if they were able to have the predictive data to repair transformers, to repair reclosers, to fix things ahead of time during the normal course of work, versus having to react, which always creates a new set of circumstances.
No, that's excellent, because that encompasses a lot of change that's taking place. Yeah. And then all of that depends on something that I want to end with: labor. Getting the right staff, whether that's unskilled crafts, skilled tradespeople, engineers, data scientists, is a huge issue for the utility industry. Talk a little bit about that, and for suppliers to the industry. Absolutely. We're all trying to hunt. We're all fishing in the same pond as Microsoft and as Amazon, as some of the other companies. What are your thoughts about the way we accomplish this labor shortage, that we don't accomplish it, that we remediate it or mitigate it in our companies?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot there. I think speaking from most recent experience as I built out the leadership team at Arcos, the mission was a really important piece of that. So I hired a marketing leader, I hired a technology leader that did not come from the utility space. They were very forward-thinking in their own spaces, but they didn't come from utilities, but they were excited about the mission. And so I think that also translates to getting younger people excited about the mission, because they don't really understand what happens behind the scenes, whether you're a lineman, whether you're an engineer, whether you're operating a control room, whether you're a CFO at a utility, right? They don't really understand how meaningful that could be. And so I think there's an education process. You see forward-thinking utilities working with third parties on creating kind of farm team type concepts for linemen. Our solution in particular is used to manage resources in the field. So we're really all about digitalizing all the work that happens in the field. And it's fascinating because much of that today is done manually, pen and paper. I mean, we are literally in the process, I won't name the utility, but a very large IOU operates in 11 states across the U.S. Their construction processes.
What area of the U.S.?
Kind of through the middle.
Okay, I know who you're talking about. Okay.
Including Texas, Oklahoma,
somewhere
Ohio.
around Columbus area is part of that.
They have some activity over there.
All right.
But today, and it's just the way it is across many of them and their peers, but their construction process is predicated on paper-based work packets.
Oh, yeah.
And
clipboards, paper.
Yeah, those days really need to come to an end for so many reasons, not to include safety, efficiency, just making it a better place to work for those employees we're trying to bring in. One thing we're seeing is like I saw this in banking too, the younger generation doesn't tolerate mediocre technology at their workplace.
Absolutely right.
I mean, they just don't, and they won't stick with a company if the technology's bad. And so they are used to Amazon, Facebook, Netflix, Instagram. That's how applications work for them, virtual reality. And so I think as we fast forward into the future, this whole digitalization of work and paper-based processes and manual processes, there's a long tail, but it's pretty exciting, and someone needs to solve it. So that's what Arcos is all about.
That's because I was going to ask you, how does Arcos solve that? But you just gave the answer. In fact, you're right. The next generation, wants to make a difference.
Right.
And they want to do it in a way that they enjoy their jobs. They don't want to carry a clipboard around and do that. And of course, pay and benefits is important, but that's not number one
anymore. That's probably number 3, number 4.
Which is amazing. That hasn't been true since 1920s. Pay and benefits was always number 1, and then number 2 was, hey, I'm doing something meaningful.
Right.
It's changed
not
dramatically.
Anymore.
I want to focus on now. We've talked about the big change. Okay, what are the storms on the horizon? Now let's talk about Arcos and how you see the company challenge. You see the company addressing those challenges in the future.
Absolutely. So we're a software company, and our mission and purpose is to build great software that allows our utility customers to provide safer operations, to provide more effective operations, to keep the power on for their constituents. And so there's a lot of other people at this event that are working on very similar things on the hardware side. We're focused on the software, and so specifically on that digitalization of the mobile workforce and creating situational awareness. Like I took you through the example of the paper work packets. I mean, that doesn't need to exist anymore. Who would have thought, I mean, you and I have both been around for a couple of years. Who would have thought 15 years ago we would use the computer that we carry around with us every single day,
the cell phone,
right, to summon a stranger to come pick us up in a car to take us somewhere? I mean, that just wouldn't have happened.
Of strangers, where we spend 3 days.
Absolutely. So just leveraging modern technology that is being used in other industries is so applicable here. I mean, your phone knows where you are. It knows when you're doing something. I mean, all those tools are already built into that technology. Why not leverage them to create a better field mobility solution and a mobile workforce management solution?
Well, I wish you guys the best. It has been a delight.
Thank you.
It's good to meet you.
Pleasure to meet you too.
We'll come over and say hi to you at your booth, okay? This has been an APC Technologies production, and we thank you for joining us. Our sponsors have been H2 Scan and Distributech. And of course, the communities of APC Technologies, which is Transform Technology, Power Systems Technology, Green Energy Technology, and Women in Power Systems. So thank you.